Welcome to the Gary DeMar blogcast. This audio is brought to you by Canon Press.
Welcome to the Gary DeMar blogcast. The topic of today's entry is how the sinister wedge of pluralism spoils everything. Can a biblically based government, including the civil sphere, operate within the conceptual framework of pluralism? While it depends on the definition of pluralism, let me say that the modern concept of pluralism is one of the most pernicious inventions of the 20th century, designed to eliminate the Christian religion. All sorts of evil acts are done in the name of pluralism. Homosexuality, abortion, and transgenderism, for example, are defended and supported based on the pliable doctrine of pluralism. Different strokes for different folks until those calling for pluralism gain control of the narrative and reins of power and deny access to anyone who offers anything different. The most recent expression of this truth has found its way into this year's March Madness basketball tournament. Oral Roberts University, of a student population of 4,000, made it to the Sweet 16, having beaten Ohio State, 66,000 students, and the University of Florida, 52,000 students. ORU was attacked by Hermel Havari, the race and inclusion editor at USA Today. She wrote that ORU's deeply bigoted and anti-LGBTQ plus policies can't and shouldn't be ignored. She wants the NCAA to ban the school. Havari rages that the school is a hotbed of institutional transphobia, homophobia, with regressive sexist policies. There is no way to separate their men's basketball team from the dangers of their religious dogma, no matter how many top seeds they defeat, she said. So much for inclusion. Havari was later fired from USA Today after mistakenly, and I would add maliciously, tweeting that the Boulder supermarket shooter was another angry white man, when he was, in fact, a Syria-born Muslim. Similar attacks have been leveled at Liberty University sports teams over the years, so this isn't anything new. Then there's this. A recent Wall Street Journal op-ed by Joshua Swamidass, a computational biologist, who believes that colleges and universities that include creation science, undefined, in their curriculum should be blacklisted by the educational and scientific community and potentially lose their accreditation. He argues that only science courses that adhere to national norms, also undefined, should count for credit toward science degrees. It's clear from the context that one workable definition of national norms is whatever Darwinists believe. Let's be reminded what Darwinists do believe. The following is from atheist and Darwinist Richard Dawkins, and I'm quoting, "In the universe of blind physical forces and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt and other people are going to get lucky. And you won't find any rhyme or reason to it, nor any justice. The universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at the bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, and no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. DNA neither knows nor cares. DNA just is, and we dance to its music." Close quote. Consider the ethical, social, and political ramifications of applying such a Darwinian view. Now, how did we get into this situation? We opened the door to the claim that Christians should be pluralists, acknowledge that at one level, all worldviews should be tolerated in the spirit of mutual respect, neutrality, diversity, and inclusion. Everyone should have a seat at the table. Too many Christian institutions fell for the scheme, and they wonder why they're being attacked. Many think that if they offer a few accommodations, that they will be tolerated and be left alone. Don't you believe it? Pluralism makes all opinions equal except for any opinion that claims that not all opinions are equal. This means, for example, that doctors who protect the unborn through heroic measures and advanced technology are no more ethical and deserving of praise than doctors who perform abortions or who deliberately snuff out the life of a terminally ill patient. Let me quote the late R.C. Sproul, a highly respected Bible teacher and Christian social theorist. And I'm quoting, "Some time ago, I spoke at a meeting of religious leaders and I told them, if anybody comes to you and tries to sell you on the virtues of pluralism as a basis for church renewal, run for your life. Pluralism as a philosophical idea is the very antithesis of Christianity. No church can survive for long in that kind of chaos, close quote. Now, someone could make the case that Sproul was only talking about religious pluralism. But aren't moral and political pluralism the result of competing religious positions? Sproul goes on to imply this. First, he talks about schools, abortion, and statism. He equates pluralism with relativism, again quoting Sproul. The rapid growth of the centralized state is happening before our eyes in the United States. Consider the areas in which the state functions today where it did not function 30 years ago. Consider the areas where the people of America formerly looked to God for their security, their meaning, and their decision-making, and now, instead, they look to the state. This eventually becomes statism, where the state becomes the goal of life. The state becomes the reason for us to live. The state unifies, transcends, becomes absolute, and is eternal, close quote. Sproul blames this on pluralism. Pluralism is the result of the loss of transcendent unity, he writes. The God whom we worship is a God who brings unity, but at the same time preserves diversity, close quote. The state is not neutral. Some religion acts as the driving force of its policies. The non-neutral state will work until every competing religious system is eliminated. Under the doctrine of pure pluralism, to which many secularists say they subscribe, all lifestyles are permitted. Thus, in the end, cannibalism, human sacrifice, group suicide, the Manson family, polygamy, and kiddie porn would have to be allowed. Who are we to say what is right and what is wrong, is the common refrain. Clearly, society cannot long survive if this principle is pushed to its logical conclusion, and everyone is free to write his or her own laws. Thus, we subscribe to pluralism within certain limits. We allow a wide range of behavior, even though we don't always approve of it. But we do not permit all behavior. We do not even allow all so-called victimless behavior, such as prostitution, drug addiction, drunkenness, and the like. The reason we don't is that our laws presuppose certain rules, certain truths. Pure freedom of conscience, then, can never really be tolerated. Government neutrality on matters of religion and morals is a modern myth. We can never escape the question, whose faith, whose values, whose God undergirds the civil laws of a nation. In his book, Our Culture, What's Left of It, Theodore Dalrymple makes the following point. The idea that freedom is merely the ability to act upon one's whims is surely very thin and hardly begins to capture the complexities of human experience. A man whose appetite is his law strikes us not as liberated, but enslaved, close quote. Pluralism was used to get the non-pluralist agenda's foot in the door. It's an old tactic that began on university campuses in the 1960s at the University of California in Berkeley in what has become known as the free speech movement. The leftists demanded free speech, and once they got it, over time they denied free speech to people with whom they disagreed. Today's universities are all the evidence one needs to know that this is true. It seems that conservatives never understood this tactic of the left. Working with the opposition was the program, hoping that their goodwill would translate into respectful dialogue and compromise on important issues. It never happened, and it will never happen.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Gary DeMar Blogcast. Now in the Canon app, you can check out Gary North's video series, The History of the Conservative Movement. So download the Canon app today, subscribe, and check out all the Great American Vision stuff we have there, as well as several hours of other content, audiobooks, video content, and audio series as well. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you next time.